Okay. Stacy, why are you here this morning? Why was this the most important place for you to be?
Because I need to start earning profit.
So you started a business to be profitable, or did you start a business to do what you do?
Started a business to do what I do.
And then it
In
dawned
order
on
to
you,
keep doing what I do, I need
yes, profit is the price we pay to do what we love, right, on an ongoing basis. That's true. And so you're in a situation where perhaps you're not profitable or marginally profitable in your business right now? Mm-hmm. Okay. And what's your name?
Margaret?
Margaret? Why are you here this morning? Why was
I had a
this
tough
the most
time
important
choosing
place?
between this and the yard.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like we've got a wide array of different kinds of businesses, different expectations. It sounds like you're all here today, though, to talk a little more and understand maybe a little more about how to be profitable. Profitable, more profitable, have more control. Even if you have the ability, as a marketing firm would, to get clients, how do I control the money that's coming in? Am I kind of hearing it correctly? Okay. Well, let's get right to it then. Here's what we want to talk about today. Your gap. Do you know what your gap is?
No.
The gap is the difference between where you are and where you want to be. First of all, you have to ask yourself, do you know where you are? And do you know where you want to be? Because without those 2 points of reference, we really can't get where you want to go, right? We're also going to talk about business success and failure. Why do businesses succeed and why do they fail? It might surprise you to know some things there. We're going to talk about a couple of principles today that might be new to you or might be a refresher. One is called the business or the wisdom pyramid. The wisdom pyramid is really what we want to get into in business, to move into using wisdom to make business decisions, which is a lot different than some small business owners use, right? Sometimes they don't have wisdom at all. Pardon?
Emotion rules.
Doesn't it, though? Doesn't it? We're also going to talk about the universal business model. We're going to give you a model of your business, whether you're one person or it can be applied to large corporations like Alliant Tech or anything in between. And we're going to teach you the 3 different divisions of any company and how profitability can be maximized when those 3 divisions work well together. Okay? We're going to talk about the 9 principles that Alan Bostrom has written about in the book In the Black that have to do with those 3 divisions of your company and how to maximize profitability using those 9 principles. We're going to take a look at how those principles then affect your business and can be implemented into your business, and in fact even make out an implementation plan for one of those principles for your business, and show you the model that you can use after the seminar today and give you the worksheets you need to go back and analyze all the different areas of your business and work on the business improvement model. We're also going to talk about how we can ensure your success as a business owner, what you need to know about your business and how to learn it, and the things that we have to offer that can help you succeed. Does that sound like a great agenda? Well, let's get right to it then. I'm glad to be here today. I love small business. I have also had a large corporate background, but I left it because I loved the variety, the vitality of working with small business owners, and the lack of politics really was the thing that got me the most. How much fun it is to work with small business because, you know, rather than just working on climbing the corporate ladder, all right, so how did the thought cross your mind that you wanted to start your own business?
Oh, I think it's always been the best.
You heard some reasons why you're in business. Now, one of them that I heard was independence. Is that correct? You wanted to work for yourself to be able to make those decisions. Maybe you were tired of having those decisions made for you. Maybe you were tired of not agreeing with those decisions. And you thought maybe you could make better decisions. Anybody in that situation? So independence was a lot of the reason why we started our own business, right? What else is there?
There's no security in corporate America anymore.
No security in corporate America. Yes.
Opportunity for more money.
Opportunity for more money. Has anybody else had that thought that you could make more money on your own than you could working for somebody else? Jonathan.
I also have to say, I mean, the blessing of being forced out of the field and looking at my own options was to have more time with my family. The freedom.
The freedom.
Yeah.
The ability to spend more time with your family. So innovation. How many of you have thought about starting your own business because, doggone it, you had a better idea and you thought you could do it better? You got frustrated with the way they were doing it where you worked and you said, I've got a better idea. Is anybody in that situation? That's a reason why some people start a business, isn't it? There's another reason, and that is the money. We've talked about the fact that it's almost impossible, if you do it right, to not make more money working for yourself than you can working for somebody else. And the reason is they can't pay you everything you're earning for their company. Right? They can pay you a portion of it. But as an owner of a company, as you learn some of the principles we're going to talk about today and leveraging your own self by duplicating the work that has to be done and relying on other people to do the work, you're unlimited to the amount of money that you can make owning your own business. Isn't that correct? Sometimes it doesn't feel like that, I know. But hopefully we're going to get over that today. What are some of the other reasons why we start our own business? Now, you mentioned one, and that is just desperation. We get laid off. A lot of times jobs aren't, especially the higher up the ladder you are in corporate America, the longer it takes you and the more scarce those jobs are, right? And so you might work yourself into a situation where over time you've just simply got to do something on your own. And another reason is the passion behind what you do. Now, you seem to have some passion for photography. Is that right, Stacy?
I think so.
Okay. What is it about photography that just gets your blood running?
I just think that it's a beautiful way to express and show who people really are.
And I'll bet this young man is with Clearview Window Cleaning. Am I correct?
That's one of them, yeah.
And what's your name?
Earl.
Earl. What are some of the reasons you got into business?
After 6 years of college, 80% of my job market was eliminated.
Wow. What did you study?
Rangeline management.
Yep, there's that. It's almost cliche that so many people end up not working in the field they graduated in. So there's a lot of reasons why we start businesses. Now, how do they start? Okay, here's the pattern that we usually follow. And let me see if this is how you started. But as we look at small businesses, here's how it usually goes. We have what Michael Gerber in his book, The E-Myth, called a technician. Now, this would represent you, Stacy. You were a photographer. You worked for another company. You were involved in photography. And you said, I don't want to do this for somebody else. I don't want to be forced into this one little niche of things they're making me do. I want to do some other kind of photography, or I can make more money doing it for myself than I can working for this other person. And so you recognize that there's an opportunity out there then for somebody that can do what you do. And so what happens? You start thinking big. You start planning for having your own business. You might even start taking some business on the side. Just kind of testing the water. So you start small, usually. How many of you started that way? Didn't quit your day job first. Just started test marketing a little bit. See if you can get a few DJ gigs, on your own.
DJ part-time for about 12 years before that.
Yeah. So you start small, and as it grows, you get more clients and more clients until you just have to make a break. And you're in business. Okay? How many of you started that way? Is that kind of descriptive of of how we go into it? Well, let's talk about some statistics that might interest you a little bit. In the United States, there are 23.6 million businesses. It might be interesting to note that only 2% of those businesses have more than 100 employees. Now, we used to be a large corporation nation, right? Mike, I think it was you that talked about no security in large corporations, right? I mean, but that didn't used to be the case. I mean, unless you really messed up, you could plan on working for a large corporation all your life. And they paid the best. They had the best benefits. It was a great place to be. And that's why your mom and dad told you, you know, go to school. At least mine did. I'm a little older. Maybe some of you younger people, your parents didn't tell you that because the paradigm has changed. But go to school, get a good education, get your degree so you can go work for a major corporation. Right? That was the formula. But things have changed. Globalization. Widespread use now of technology that has been so used that it's become affordable for even individuals to use out of their home. Computer technology, the internet, has changed the face of business. You can operate now out of your home and be global with the internet, right? You can put your catalog up on the internet and have people buy your pictures in India. Isn't that wonderful? You can have a presence now that gives people that come to your site the impression that you are a large corporation, even though you're one person, right? And most of all, because of globalization and the downward pressure on lowering costs in corporate America, and their priority in terms of making their stock value go up, what have they learned? If they want their stock value to go up, all they have to do is one thing. Lay off, right? And it's become an addiction for corporate America now. Anytime I need to raise my stock, I just lay off people. I just shatter lives. What's the difference? My stock goes up, right? So the loyalty that used to be there between employees and companies have gone. And they're not the most secure place to work anymore. They don't pay the best. We see that large corporation wages are becoming more in parity with small business wages, right? And certainly they're decreasing their benefits. I mean, everything is pointing in the direction that more and more people now are having to start their own businesses just to make a living. And so we've come to the point now where 85% of the businesses out there have fewer than 20 employees. And is anybody not in that situation? Nobody here has more than 20, do they? So we're talking about small business. It's a phenomenal time. Never has there been a better time to start and grow your own business. But there are some hazards, aren't there? Let's look at some other statistics here. According to the Small Business Administration Office of Advocacy, the last year they measured 652,337 businesses started. And Margaret, how many closed that same year?
Almost as many, 615,000.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Let me amaze you a little more, and I hope I don't scare you by putting this statistic up there. The last year they measured, it varies from community to community. There are some areas where it's not this way, where more businesses opened than closed. But overall, in the small business market, with fewer than 20 employees, more businesses closed that year than opened. Isn't that amazing? So do we have to ask ourselves the question, if we're going to go into business for ourselves, because a lot of times this is how we are as small business owners, right? We don't want to see the truth. We don't want to hear the truth. And we certainly don't want to talk about the truth about our business, right? We want to hope that it's the way we think it is, the way we hope it is, the way we want it to be. And that's one of the big problems. And that's one of the reasons a lot of these businesses close. But let's ask ourselves that question. Why do they close? Well, if we look at it and put it in its most simple terms, here's why. Bad business decisions, right? Either they don't make a decision, right? Do a lot of small businesses put off making decisions sometimes? Because it might be difficult, it might be a hard decision. They may have to let a friend or even a family member go, even though the numbers might be telling them that's what they need to do. They delay. Number two, they might make a bad decision, or they might not execute a good decision. Might be a good decision, they just don't put it into practice. But those are the reasons, if you put it in its simplest form, why businesses fail. Now, it manifests itself in other more specific symptoms. This list lists some of them. Insufficient working capital, inexperience. A lot of people might be experienced in photography, but not business. And so when they do get into business for themselves, they struggle. Okay, because it's different being a photographer and owning a photography business, right? It's two different things. Extravagance. How many of you remember the stories? Mike, do you remember some of the stories of the dot-coms? And all of the extravagance that they put into their office buildings? Every single employee having an $800 executive chair. I mean, you know.
Private chefs in cafeterias.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, I watched all of that and I said, is it just me? Am I just out of sync with reality anymore? But is this can this possibly succeed? They haven't, not $1 has been earned, you know? And yet, all of the extravagance that you saw, and now of course we know what happened to many of those companies. Dishonesty can kill you. Personality issues. How many times have you heard of partners not being able to make a business work? Not because it wasn't a good idea, not because they didn't have a good product, because they couldn't get along, right? So there's a lot of reasons why businesses fail. But how do they succeed? They make good business decisions, and then they execute those decisions well. That's how you succeed. Is that simple? If you'd like to, or even if you wouldn't, go ahead and open up your workbooks. And here's what we want to talk about today. Why are you here? You talked about why you wanted to come. The questions then: what can I do to make my business either profitable, right, or more profitable, as Jonathan brought up? What can I do immediately to make my business more profitable, and how can UAC help you do that? Okay? So just jot some notes down in terms of the gap that we talked about. Where are you and where do you want to be? Those are some questions we want to answer for you today. Now, let's start by talking about the wisdom pyramid. And you have a model of it here in your worksheet. Has anybody seen this before? Or is anybody familiar with this already? Okay. The wisdom pyramid basically indicates that in order to be successful, we have to operate from a position of wisdom in our business. And how do we get there? All wisdom starts with data. What do I mean by data?
Numbers of clients and how much they're bringing in.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. So, statistics, okay? Data, raw data. How many sales did I make? How many customers did I serve? What was my gross revenue? Right? All of those little things. It might look like this when we first get it, right? This is data at its rawest form. Do you know what this is? Yeah, this is the small business accounting system, all right, that a lot of small businesses use. And this is data. Raw data, receipts, We could have invoices in there, we could have statements, we could have our bank statements, but we have done nothing to make sense out of it. It's just the raw data. Is that intelligence about your business? And yet, how many small businesses operate on that level?
A
Okay?
number.
That's that. And then they wonder why they don't succeed. All they have is data. In order for this to be useful to me, what must I do?
Organize it.
I've got to organize it, right? We call that data processing, data entry, data processing. There are so many tools that we can use. And in small business, that usually comes to play in an accounting software, right? And with accounting software now, you enter this in, and it can give you reports. Reports provide you not just data, but data raised to the next level is information. This is data that is organized now so that we can tell what it means a little bit. How many of you have been able to print off financial reports for your business? Okay. You're at the information level. Now, if you take that financial report then and start to look at it, start to analyze it, start to understand what it's telling you, then you gain knowledge about your business. You know, now you can start to answer some of those questions that are so important. How much is a client worth? How much can I spend to get one? How can I increase the dollar volume per client? What is my net profit? Is it increasing? Is it decreasing? And why? What expenses do I have? And how can I track their return so that I can see that every dollar I spend is making me back $2, $3, $4 over here? Does that make sense? I can start to look for those things then in my financial statements and gain knowledge. I do that over time and I start to see what? I start to see patterns, right? I start to see more of the cause and effect relationships in business. And I might get to the point where I actually gain wisdom. And what would the difference be between wisdom and knowledge? Does anybody want to venture a guess? Yes.
Well, it's using your knowledge wisely, but, you know, I mean, you can have knowledge and not have any common sense to go along with it at all.
Right. Now, I like to look at it this way, that the difference between knowledge and wisdom is this. Something's going on in your business, you're not quite sure what. So you look at the financial statements and it tells you. That's knowledge. Wisdom is being able to see the problem and know what the cause is before you even look at the numbers. Now, you don't stop looking at the numbers, don't get me wrong. But it's that intuition that you start building up as you've looked at the numbers over time, and you start seeing those patterns and those cause and effect relationships. You can get to the point where if you see a situation or an opportunity, you can recognize it and know intuitively what you need to do. How many of you have ever worked a Sudoku puzzle? Are you into them? Have you got the habit yet?
They're addictive.
No, I stopped because I do it all the time, and so I've tapered back.
Just don't get to the hard ones, man. They waste too much time. The easy ones, you know, that you can get done in a few minutes, yeah, you can whip through a couple of those, get your fix, and go on with your day. But the hard ones that take like 45 minutes, and then you got to do another one, you know. Worse than television. But has anybody worked a lot of those? Okay, Mike. Have you ever got to the point where you know where a number goes, but you don't know why you know?
Yeah, kind of.
It's just the 6 goes here. And then you go, well, why? And then you start looking and you see all the other numbers. But before you even looked at the specifics, you knew where that number went. That's wisdom. And wouldn't it be great for your success as a business owner if you could do that with your financial statements instead of a Sudoku puzzle? If you could just look at your business and know, before you even checked the numbers, what the problem was. That's wisdom.
Clay, can you give some more examples of that, about the wisdom aspect of looking at reports, kind of real-world settings?
Oh, let's just say that Well, let's give some situation. Yes.
There's one that I've seen before quite often where a company doesn't know how much it costs to produce their product or service. They don't really know how much it really costs, but they go out and sell it and end up undercutting themselves and losing a lot of profit.
Right.
If you understand where your costs are gonna be, you have a lot better negotiating power.
And another good example is taking on a client. If I have to reorganize the deal or I have to underprice myself to get the business, do I know what the ramifications of those are in advance? One of the things that kills small business a lot of times is low pricing. Rather than losing a deal to low price and being unprofitable, see, and not being unprofitable, they'll take a deal because they think because they're making money, it's good, right? But it may end up costing them much more than they make, and that's a big problem. Does that help?
Well, you had mentioned something about looking at books and seeing a problem and understanding what it is without really delving in. I was just wondering if you had
Yeah.
any
Well,
clear ideas on that.
I'll give you another example, but let's
Wisdom
listen.
told us that there was a definite reason for the numbers being where they were, things that we knew we could change.
Excellent example. Excellent example. How many times have you walked into a restaurant and you just say, this place is going to grow? And it did? Do you know what I mean? Or you walked into a restaurant and you just say, this place is not going to be in business very long. That's some of your wisdom as a consumer that was telling you, based on what you've seen, and you didn't have any numbers to go on, but you just assumed because the service was poor, the food was poor, they're not going to stay in business. That's another good example. We implement it all the time in terms of what markets do we go into, with what products or what seminar offerings, for example. And because of the experience we've had, we can kind of determine even before we look at the numbers kind of what we think the numbers are going to show. And we're often not surprised. And so we've learned, for example, over time that if we go into a city with fewer than, say, 500,000 in population, it's not going to work. So a lot of it might be experience, might be referred to as experience, but it's gaining that wisdom that really puts us at the peak of being able to operate our business. So the question I have for you then is, where is your wisdom? We find that business owners, it's not like it's black and white. It's not like you're totally stupid or totally wise, right? There may be some areas of your business where you're very wise. There may be other areas of your business where you may be foolish or maybe just ignorant. Okay? So where are the areas in your business where you have wisdom? Jonathan, what about you?
Well, I know where I'm wanting to learn more wisdom, but in the wisdom of being familiar with my industry. I mean, I've been
Okay.
there for so many years. I've learned from other professional disc jockeys I've worked for in the past. Wisdom would be working with a client in person, doing master of ceremonies, when to take a particular approach or whatever. The aspect of managing my business in a different way, the accounting and stuff, that's where I'm wanting to gain more understanding.
Excellent, excellent. What about you, Stuart?
Well, I'm a good idea generator, accounting, management. I'm weak in sales, marketing.
Yeah. We all have strengths and weaknesses, don't we? And that's one of the wonderful things about working with other people. You want to find those that are what? Strong where you're weak and weak where you're strong. You complement each other. Have you noticed that the businesses that really succeed have been able to work out those kind of relationships where they're strong in every area? Not because one person is strong in every area. That's difficult. But there are people out there willing to help. You don't even need to hire them as employees necessarily, But look at those areas where you don't have wisdom yet and find people who do have wisdom in those areas. And whether it's just having them as a mentor, a partner, a strategic alliance maybe. Maybe you work up a trade relationship. I remember when I started my consulting firm, one of my clients was an accountant. And he knew a lot more about that area than I did at the time. I gained a lot of wisdom from him. But I didn't have it in the first place. He taught me a lot. And in exchange, I taught him a lot about marketing. I taught him a lot about getting clients. And we helped each other. A wonderful thing to do. So there's some of the ways that you can even gain more wisdom, but there's also ways that you can gain more wisdom yourself by just simply understanding some principles of business and getting there. So let's look at your business then. If you could separate it into major divisions of activity, what would they be, major functions? What would they be, and how many functions does a business really have? Now, with a business like Alliant Tech Systems, you might think that there are hundreds of these different areas or functions in the business. Maybe you think that because you're small, maybe you only have one, and that's just taking pictures, right? But here's what we can apply to any business. Whether it be small or large, it basically has three areas, three major functions: marketing, accounting, and production. What we might refer to as MAP. Isn't that a great acronym? It's going to map your business. Marketing, accounting, and production. So let's talk about each one of those just a little bit. Marketing, what is that function? What does that entail?
Getting customers.
Yeah, that's anything that attracts a customer to you. Okay? Anything that helps you find and get a customer in the door. So that would include newspaper ads, maybe. If you're a retail store, it might include telemarketing lead qualification. Okay? It may include anything that helps you find and identify and bring or attract new clients to you. Let's talk about production next. What's production?
The actual, either production of a product that you sell or the execution of the services that you offer.
Exactly. It's actually providing the product or service that you say you do. And this is where most people have their wisdom and expertise to start their own business. Because we usually come from a production background. Didn't you, Stacy?
Mm-hmm.
Did you start your own business because you wanted to do your own accounting?
No way.
See, I want to do accounting, so how am I going to do that? I'll start my own business, and then I'll be able to do accounting. No, you don't think that way. Most people come from the production standpoint, don't they? You started your own business because that's what you wanted to do, right? You wanted to be in the production end of things. Isn't that the same with you, Jonathan? Is there anything better than being an MC and a DJ?
It's fun.
Especially when you do it as well as Jonathan does. We used him for a couple of events in the chamber, and I've been well acquainted with his work. It's phenomenal.
Oh, he's got a beautiful voice.
Yeah. And so, but it's cool when you can do something you love to do in the way you love to do it. See, that's why we get into business for ourselves. It's that production part of things. What about accounting? What does that do?
Make sure you're on track, or at least shows you where you are. You've got to know where you are in order to know whether you need to move, in what direction you need to move.
Exactly. And come right down to it, can I do marketing and production for free? It costs money to do marketing. It costs money to do production, right? And because it costs money, am I just made of money? Do I just go grab money off trees? The money I spend, I have to make sure it does something, right? What do I have to make sure it does?
It produces.
Makes me money. So if I'm not tracking where I'm spending money or how much I'm spending, and I'm not tracking how much that money makes me, do I make profit just by accident? Just because I'm lucky?
Some people do.
Not for long. Some people may hit a trend or a market at just the right time. And they make a ton of money, but then they fail when reality comes back into place. Yes?
One thing, a valuable lesson I learned working for Alliant Tech Systems is I've never been with a company who budgets profit like they do. They budget profit.
Yeah.
And then they figure out what they need to do to hit that profit mark. It's not just, whatever's left over is profit. I mean, they target it.
As you should. You should do the same thing that Alliant Tech does. How much profit do you want to make? Now, a lot of us talk about how much we want to sell. I want to sell $10,000 of DJ services this month, right? But it's a little harder to understand what that means as far as money in your pocket. And it's also difficult to understand how much of that we need to put back in the business to continue to prime the pump, right? How do I know all those things? Accounting tells me all of those things. And if I don't have that accounting portion of my business in order, how can I ever gain wisdom? How can I ever make the right decisions that are going to keep me in business and keep me profitable and maximize my profit over time? It's impossible. You can't do it. Does that make sense? It may be the glue that holds the other two parts of it together. Without accounting, the other two fall apart eventually. It's like driving a car and never getting it maintained. Never checking the oil, never checking the gas. I mean, eventually it starts to break down, and so will a business without that maintenance function and the decision-making process that goes along with having all your accounting in order. Does that make sense? So, as we look at putting those three together then, let's ask ourselves the question, how do those three areas then work together? Well, this is the universal business model, and it basically indicates this. The better we can integrate all three of those areas of our business together, the more profitable we're going to become. So, while this might be a model of one business where profitability is relatively small, we may get to a situation where we're doing better, where the three parts of our business are more integrated, right? And we're making more profit. How do you think that happens? What do you think makes it more profitable when they're working together better? What are some examples of how profitability can be minimized if they're not working together that you can think of?
It comes down probably to lack of communication. The marketing people are spending like crazy without tracking what they're getting, the bang they're getting for the buck.
Right? That's excellent. So accounting and marketing isn't communicating?
Or production isn't communicating with sales on how much time they need to produce or what they need to
Right.
supply it.
Lead times for production.
And the salespeople don't know what to sell or how to sell it, or they sell it and end up promising it.
Yeah, or production is just producing what they think they ought to without coordinating with marketing about what the customers really want. Or they're making more than marketing is selling, and so they have excess inventory. You got too much money tied up in excess inventory, and accounting yells at them because of that. And then say, well, sales isn't selling anything. They're not selling what we make. And marketing says, we're making what sells. You know? So what else? Can you see how when you keep these apart, you have problems? Go ahead.
I was just saying with production, it's a changing world, and everyone needs to be aware of all the other things that are being advanced. And you just have to change. You have to be on the top of the game, and with new ideas and new technology, just keep up
Yeah.
with everything.
They come from the sales background. You know, salespeople love to complain about the product. You know, our product is crap. You know, it should be like this. It should be like that. And customers complain to the salespeople, and they whine and moan and complain that the company's not doing anything. And it's because marketing and production aren't talking to each other. They have no common language. The common language, of course, for all of that is accounting, right? Margaret.
In my situation, it's is the former owner not paying attention to what's available from the franchise to sell them, so she's not marketing it, you know, and so, you know, if you're not aware of what there is to sell, you can't market it. So you have to be aware of what your product is.
Yeah.
And some, you know, in that, you know, in the case of a franchise, you have to be on top of that and pay attention to what they're giving you. And,
That's right.
You know, and if they're giving you a product, and you need to learn about that product, and then you need to learn how to market it and follow their plan often. You know,
That's right.
To market it.
So marketing isn't talking to production about what's available.
Yeah.
And on the same sense, you might have marketing not talking to accounting to learn what marketing media is really most cost effective and where they should be allocating their marketing dollars for the most effectiveness. And so they just keep doing it the way they've always done it, thinking that's how they should do it. In fact, they may be just judging their marketing media by raw results without factoring in costs and really understanding that what they think is their best media is really their least profitable. Go
And
ahead.
sometimes it's not giving a particular media enough time to, you know, like sometimes print media will take, you know, you have to hit it
Right.
time and time again and not just do it once. And, you know,
Yeah.
when we were told that, well, this doesn't work, and they did it once. Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Another example might be that you've got accounting that looks at what marketing is doing or production is doing and saying, look, this product is unprofitable. We want you to stop selling it. But marketing comes back and say, look, if we stop selling that, we stop getting people in the door. That's our lost leader. Every time somebody comes in to buy that, yeah, we might lose a few cents on that product, but they also purchase these products. And that's what we found. Do you see what I mean? All three of them have to understand what the other one is doing and how they affect each other in order to do better. And of course, the goal is to have all three of those as integrated as possible, so that the marketing and the accounting and the production all functions as one to provide the product or service to the maximum number of customers with the least cost, right? And that's what makes your business in the black. So the question is, now let's apply this a little bit to your business. What are some of the areas where you're seeing that maybe these three areas are not integrated in your business? Stacy, for you, for example.
I would say accounting.
Okay.
That's where I struggle.
Okay. And marketing?
Marketing and production right now are working together.
Okay. That's good. That's good. To be successful in your business, you need to develop wisdom, don't you? You'll always beat out the competition if you're wiser about the business than they are, long term. Now you might lose a deal here or a deal there, but in the long term you're going to win the game. So what the goal is then is to work together to make sure that all three of those areas of our business then are working together, and we're maximizing the integration of those three areas. Now, let's talk about the 9 principles of profitability. There are 3 in the marketing area, 3 in the accounting area, and 3 in the production area. First, let's talk about the marketing area. And the 3 principles are these. Nothing happens until you make a sale. A lot of times people get into business, they set up their home office, they go out and buy everything they need, the file folders and the computer and the paper clips and the stapler, and they get it all set up and they sit there and wait for the phone to ring. And they say, I'm in business, right? Nothing happens until you make a sale. What are you in business to have happen? Making money. Finding customers that need your product or service so that you can provide that and they can pay you. Right? So nothing happens until you make a sale. A deal is only good when it's good for both parties. What do you think that means, Margaret?
That means that the client has to get as much value out of it as you do.
Yeah. Well, if I just make money off the client, isn't that the important thing?
No, they have to find value in the money that they're spending.
But why? As long as I get their money, why? What do I care?
So they come back.
And
Yeah.
they'll tell someone else.
Oh, so coming back is an important part of profitability?
Yeah, you want repeat business.
Oh, I see. And you mentioned something, Debbie. What was that?
So that they'll tell other people.
Oh,
Yeah,
so like
word-of-mouth advertising.
free advertising and referral business can help with my profitability. Yeah. Do you see how this starts to work? If you make your deals good for both parties, so you're looking at having those relationships forever, look at those relationships that you make with your clients as lasting forever, you'll price so that you're not gouging them, so that they will come back. Maybe not even for the same thing, but you're going to want to find other things that they'll need, right? That's marketing. When you start to expand your product line to fulfill needs because you know your customers. But if you dealt with them harshly before, are they going to buy anything else from you? Are they going to tell anybody else to come and buy from you? And what's that worth over time? When you have a clientele that does nothing but come back to you and buy more and tell other people to do the same, how does that impact your bottom line? Jonathan?
That's the biggest part of my business is referral.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's critical. But on the other hand, and here's where a lot of other small business owners tank it, it's got to be a good deal for you. Does that make sense? Sometimes we're of the other band, where we just say, I got to get some business. And so we go out and we take deals on that aren't good for us. Now, write this down. No business is better than bad business. It's better not to do it than to do it unprofitably. You can't make it up in volume, okay, when you underprice yourself. And a lot of times what happens is you might still even be profitable, but you end up spending so much time for so little money that you burn yourself out. See, the purpose of being in business for yourself is so that you can spend less time making more money so that you have freedom to do the other things that are important in your life so you don't burn out, right? So that this can become a permanent thing for you too. Not the other way around. Does that make sense? We want to definitely end up owning our own business rather than having it own us. We want to control it rather than it controlling our lives, right? Because a poorly run business can be even a worse taskmaster than a bad boss. Does that make sense? You can always quit if you've got a bad boss. But a lot of times you can't just end a business without financial devastation, and you feel you're trapped in a situation you can't get out of. It can be worse. Grow your business geometrically. Now this kind of flows out of the second one and some of the discussion we've had, because as you start to look at those first two principles, what happens over time if you're doing it right? You get repeat business, you get referral business, and pretty soon the influx is something you don't even control. You can manage it to a certain extent, but you have customers coming to you that you had nothing to do with bringing to you, not directly anyway. You know, they came from their cousin Mary, who said, you've got to go. If you're having a party, you have to have Jonathan. Do you know what I mean?
I had a painter call me on the phone once, and he says, I understand you have a mural on your wall that needs work. And I go, yeah? How did you hear about that? And he told me the name, and I had not a clue who that was, but I had told somebody that I needed a painter for this wall to fix it up. And through word of mouth, somebody called me on the phone looking for a job.
See, word of mouth goes both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. And so even though they might not tell other people, they may tell you that they've heard about an opportunity. Hey, Jonathan, Debbie's having a wedding, you know, and she needs a DJ. Give her a call. Tell her I sent you. And she'd have that same, Clay who? Right? No. So those are the 3 marketing principles. Any questions on those? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Geometrically, you want to explain that a little bit more in depth?
Well, look what happens when word of mouth really starts going and repeat and referral starts going. If all I can do is get people the first time, but never get them back or never giving me referral business, my business growth, if anything, will be linear. In other words, I have to run an ad, or I have to put an ad in the paper or something to get X number of people. But I never multiply my advertising by getting other people to advertise for me. And because of that, it's a geometrical effect where the more people you sell, they sell more people who sell more people, and it just mushrooms if you're doing it right. Yes?
So you need to have your growth rate higher than your attrition rate,
Oh, absolutely.
you know. And the only way of doing that is by having more people that are satisfied than less people that are. One of
Well,
the ways of doing
and I can even have my growth rate be greater than my attrition rate and still just grow linearly. Okay? But it's not until I really start emphasizing those first 2 principles about making more sales and about better deals for both parties, right? Because if it's profitable for me and I can maximize my profit while maximizing value to you, that energy drives more and more people to come back and to tell others about it. And that's where you get geometric growth. Does that answer your question? Okay. So let's look then at the accounting function, or excuse me, the production function. First of all, pour on communication. What do we mean by that in terms of the production part of things?
Make sure that marketing and accounting know
Okay.
what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yeah. Make sure that everybody knows what's going on and that you're getting information from everybody in terms of production.
A good example, I used to work for Standard Register, which is one of the nation's largest print companies, and when I hired on, part of the training was the regional manager took you through the huge plant, and you saw every machine, and the person running that machine
Mhm.
explained exactly how it was working. And, huge, huge presses. It was the best training I've ever had because I had a much better understanding of what we were doing.
Right. Right. That involvement and communication of other areas of the business in the other areas of the business really helps. One of the things I love to do is take out people with me when we do our seminars on the road, people from other departments. The lady that processes the enrollment agreements when we come back from the road, she gets to understand a little more about the people that now she's processing. She's met some of them face to face. She gets a feel for who, and she can put faces on these contracts, and it starts to mean more to her. She starts to understand some of the special arrangements we have to make out there to help people. Do you know what I mean? And we have some other people that from our telemarketing department, for example, our customer service person, the person that calls our new students that we get on the road and welcomes them into the program and helps coordinate them with their coaches and those kind of things. So she comes out with me. She gets to meet the people. She gets to see what we're talking about in the seminars, that she's following up on. And she gets a very clear picture now of who these people are. It helps her, right? Yes?
Employees should be trained, should be given the training that is available to you as an owner of whatever. You have to develop your own, develop it. If you've got it available to you, use it. And
Exactly.
that's another thing that's happened in the business that we're buying, is that there has been no formal training of the employees, and they're just kind of floundering out there on their own.
And training is an important part of communication, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. And it flows right into the second principle, which is improve your internal processes. And sometimes the best way to improve your internal processes is not from people from your own department. Now, if you're a one-person operation, hopefully it's the same person. But I mean, if you've got other people in your business, here at Universal, for example, we've had some of our best suggestions on how to improve our processes from people from other departments who, when we poured on the communication, look at what we do and say, why don't you do this? A lot of times they might not know what they're talking about, but a lot of times they hit it right on the head because they're not immersed in it all the time. Do you know what I mean? So you look at your internal processes. What is the process you use step by step for getting a customer? Do you have a process? Or do you do what so many people do? I think I'll find a client today. I don't know how. I'll go talk to some people maybe, and I'll find a client. And you just keep rolling the dice, right? Because there is no process, or it's a poorly defined process. Do you have a process from the time for taking a portrait? Do you know your process for that? It's pretty well step by step, right? And you've got them all laid out. Are there ways to improve that so you can even do it more profitably?
Always.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a saying in our franchise: insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different
results. So look at your processes. What are you doing, and how can you improve them? Ask yourself, why am I doing it this way? Why did I decide to do it that way? Is there a better way? Get other people to look at it. If you're in a business alone, you're a one-man operation, find those other people that you can just kick around ideas. Hey, I'll kick your tires if you kick mine. I'll look at your business processes, you look at mine. If you have a mastermind group, it's a great way to help each other with your businesses if you're a single one-man operation or lady operation.
I was going to say, I'm a one-man operation. A couple years ago, I got involved with a group of people that are in my industry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm part of an association.
Right.
So if anybody has associations in their industry, it's a very good thing to, like
Huge.
the tires, people,
Yeah.
I actually have a team of like 3 DJs that I meet with every 2 weeks, and as I'm reorganizing my format, changing my name, I'm getting ideas of what other people would recommend and stuff, so it does help.
Associations are a great way to look at best practices, and most associations will have forums, for example, on their websites. You can log on and talk to other people in the industry. And what do you do in this situation? And it's amazing how many of them are just willing to give that information out to help.
A lot of companies put together advisory boards, people who are, totally unrelated to the company.
Absolutely. And your rule should be, even if you're in business by yourself, okay, you should never be in business by yourself. For yourself maybe, but not by yourself. Even if it's just an advisory board that you meet with maybe once a month, once a quarter, buy them lunch. Say, we're meeting at this restaurant and I'm going to buy you lunch. I just want to kick some ideas around. And you'd be amazed at how many people would just be happy to help you succeed. But never be by yourself. You just can't look at things from every angle. You need those other eyes on your processes to really understand how to grow your business. Yes?
One of the things I've found is if you meet up with people outside your immediate market area, they tend to be more open and willing to help.
Right.
Like I have friends in California that own a window cleaning business. I was actually able to go out there and spend 3 days with them, washing windows one day with their crews, in the office with their office manager for a day with the marketing
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And they just kind of opened everything up because they knew that I wasn't going to go to California and try breaking into their market. And
Excellent idea.
They had grown their business to where I wanted it, and I had got there and they did. So they were able
Now, why would they help you?
because they love telling people about their battle with, this thing called business and their successes.
Then you'd be amazed how many successful business owners just love to tell their stories. And especially, you helped. You went down there, you worked, you didn't ask for pay. So he went on the deal. Would he invite you down again sometime?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you make it a win-win, and these partnerships can really help you with improving your internal processes. Yes?
I think along with that level, if you ask anybody in their industry what they like to do, and you give them a time, they'll tell you about it.
Oh, they will.